सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। We'll continue our journey of Katha Upanishad. This is second vallI, second adHyAya, 9th verse. Agnir yatheiko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo babhuva ekas tatha sarva bhutantaratma rupam rupam pratirupo bahishcha. As one fire, after it enters the world, enters form after form and becomes each form it enters. Similarly, the one self, inner self of all beings enters form after form but remains separate in imitation. Agni here does not mean the physical Agni with flame that we observe. Agni is wherever there is warmth, wherever there is some energy which causes temperature, which starts some action or interaction, that is Agni, which is in every living being as well as inanimate objects, and that all started this universe. So that Agni, wherever it enters, it becomes part of that, it becomes one with that object or living being. But Antaratma, the inner self, that also becomes in multitude, takes all the forms, but still it gets detached from whatever form it enters. It does not become one, and that's why many of the times we see this upama, rupak, lotus in the panka, the mud. So muddy water, it's just the metaphor. Wherever lotus blooms, it does not get affected by whatever it is surrounded by. So just like that, Atma or our Antaratma is also, we think that it takes multiple forms, but it is different, it is separate from the form. And that is the idea of our journey to the self-realization. Now they take, Rishi here gives one more example. Vayu yathirko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo babhuva ekas tatha savabhutatantaratma rupam rupam pratirupo bahishcha. As one air or Vayu, after it enters the world, enters form after form and becomes each form it enters. Similarly, the one inner self of all beings enters form after form and assumes each form but remains separate in essence. So again, the after Agni, the example taken is Vayu. Vayu is any element that moves. So oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, helium, nitrogen, many different elements that move, that are part of all the objects and even living beings. Because even if we say we have this physical body, this gross body, it is made up of elements. So those elements, some of the elements represent air, Vayu. So Vayu takes form of the object that it enters. Just like that, inner Atma, the inner self, enters many different forms, yet it does not become that form, it remains separate. It is little distant from the form it takes. So again, a new example is taken here. 11th verse. Suryo yatha sarvalokasya chakshuhu na lipyate chakshusher bahya doshehi ekas tatha sarva bhutantaratma na lipyate loka dukhena bahyaha. As the sun becomes the light of the eye in all worlds, but is not contaminated by defects of the I, being external to it. Similarly, the one inner self of all beings is external to the world and therefore not contaminated by the miseries of the world. Sun can be considered as light of the eye of the world, or it can be considered eye of the world which emits or which takes the light. And now that sun, even though if we assume that sun is the eye of the world, so whatever happens around the sun, there are explosions, there are comets falling into suns or circling around, or there are other objects that fall into sun or they take rotation around the sun. There are multiple of grahas, planets that rotate around the sun. Whatever happens around sun is not affected by all that. So similarly, the inner self, Antaratma, which resides in all beings, is one, and it is not contaminated by whatever is happening around the world. Even we have seen that in Bhagavad Gita. Sri Krishna is saying exactly similarly, that it cannot be burned, it cannot be dried, it cannot be affected by anything happening in the body or mind. Whatever we feel, joy or sorrow or whatever bhav that is part of us, Atma is not affected by it. It's just our ignorance, our ajnana, that makes us think that we are one that bhava, we are one that joy or sorrow. So, but Atma, which is beyond all of this. 12th verse. Eko vashi sarva bhutantaratma ekam rupam bahudha yah karoti tamatma sthan ye anupashyanta dhiraha tesham sukham shashvatam netaresham. He is one, the inner self of all beings, who makes his one form manifold. The wise, who see him established in themselves, to them belongs eternal bliss and not to others. So this is in a sense one tool is given here. So how to understand what our Atma is and how to make ourselves, meaning our mind, detached from what Atma is experiencing or not experiencing or observing. So this is one of the tools given here, and the tool is the wise. Here wise meaning the person who understands what is happening around it, what is happening around in his world, in his life, in his family, in his society, what is happening or how it is reflected in his mind. I am not saying his is just the man, his or her, man or woman, whoever it is. So when that is reflected in the mind, the wise needs to think what is happening in the mind. Is it the mind that is acting, or it is something beyond that? So if we try to create this distance from what is happening, what we feel or what we see around us, if we detach ourselves, if we keep a distance, then we get that bliss, meaning we get the self-realization, we know the Atma, we become one with the Atma and separate from mind. One more thing, here it is said that who see him established in themselves. So there are multiple forms in the world. So all these different forms, is taken by Atma. But we saw before that Atma is one. So if Atma is one, it is not separate from me and you. It is one Atma that is in all of us. In past we have taken this example, we have looked at this example, that in aquarium there is a fish, and that fish, just one fish in the aquarium, and there are multiple cameras put in all the directions, up, down, left, right, front, back. So there are all these cameras in all the different directions, and there is just one fish in the aquarium, and we want to, if we look at all the cameras and what is happening in the camera, so just one fish, it would look like a dot, a circle from the front or from the back. It will look like a two-dimensional picture from left or right or below or above. So all the cameras will see it differently. So fish is one, but the cameras see it differently. Similarly, there is one Atma only. That Atma takes multiple forms, trillions and trillions of forms, all the living beings, all of us. But if we understand, if we become wise and understand that it is one, it is not separate from me and you, so that is key to self realization, and that will take us to the path of bliss, the Anandamaya Kosha.
You are looking to go to Vidya Vikas? To the main chapter.
13th verse. नित्यो अनित्यानां चेतनश्चेतना नाम एको बहुनान् यो विदधाति कामान् तमात्मस्थं ये अनुपश्यन्ति धीराः तेषां शान्तिः शाश्वती नेतरेषाम्. He is the eternal amongst the transient. He is the sentient among the all sentients. He is the one amongst the many. He is the fulfiller of all desires. The wise who see him established in themselves, to them belongs eternal peace and not to others. So again, multiple attributes of Atma. That Atma is one, and that is the only eternal thing among all the transient things. Our body, it is going to perish. We take different birth. Many different life forms, you, me, multiple people, all the living beings, they take different forms. Those forms are transient, they are going to be destroyed or perished. So what remains is that one Atma, and sentient amongst all sentients. So we see life from amoeba, from one cell activities like viruses, to a form like us, or even higher beings like devatas. So all these are living beings, but amongst these living beings, who is sentient, who has chetana, that is Atma, one Atma, and who fulfills all the desires. We pray to God, we do many different things, like many people suggest some psychoanalysis and do auto suggestions, many different practices to contain mind and manifestations. There are many different words used in modern world. There are many people who claim that if you follow how to manifest something, it will happen in your life. And secret, there are many videos on that, that if you do this, eventually you will get it. So all these desires, then some people pray to God, hey God, I have this trouble, do something. Then we ask for something, we pray to God and say, I want this in my life. So however bad or good it is, we are not going to judge, but whatever it is eventually get fulfilled. And who does that? Who fulfills all these desires? That is Atma. And Atma is one, it is one with Paramatma. So ultimately whatever method we use, that is just at external level, but ultimately what is happening is our Atma knows that what we desire, what we want, and eventually that will happen sooner or later. So wise, so who understands this, they get peace. Uh, we do not get peace easily because we desire. I want something. If that is achieved, then it's next. It's like a carrot dangling against a donkey. The donkey will never reach or will never eat that carrot. It will always be in front of it. Or if imagine that donkey is able to eat that carrot, then a next carrot will appear. So it is never ending. The carrots will keep coming, all the desires. So when we are going to get peace? When the desire stops. It does not mean desire is bad or good. It's just that whether we want peace, whether we want to stop, whether we want to run, we want to chase, we want to stop chasing the carrot that is dangling against us. And there are multiple of carrots. So if we stop doing that, that gives us peace. Peace is not just external, it is inner peace. So when we understand that it is the Atma or Paramatma that fulfills all the desires. Say there are two people, two persons, they are against each other and they both desire to win. So one's wish is going to be fulfilled, other's wish is not going to be fulfilled. So the other person whose wish is not being fulfilled will not have peace. The one whose desire is or wish is fulfilled will get something else and will chase after that. So both, in a sense, they do not have peace. One is contented with what is happening currently and then accept it, then only one can achieve peace. So who is the giver of that peace? That is our Atma. Because if we think that the other person who won over us is also my Atma, or it is one Atma, it is not separate, then it will not create conflict. And that is a key to getting the inner peace. Fourteenth verse. Tadetaditi manyante anirdeshyam paramam sukham katham nutadvijaniyam kimu bhati vibhati va. The one they believe is the highest bliss proclaimed. How shall I know it? How shall I see it or observe it? So the Anandamaya Kosha, the ultimate eternal bliss, when we are one with Paramatma, when we have self-realization, that is the ultimate bliss. So now Rishi is questioning, and Rishi through Nachiketa is asking Yama, how shall I know it? How shall I see it? How shall I distinguish it? How shall I observe it? Now the answer is not here right away, but later on. The 15th verse, na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vitto bhanti kuto ayam agnihi tameva bhanta manu bhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. The sun does not shine there, nor do the moon and stars, nor does lightning illuminate. Then how can this fire? When he shines, everything else radiates his light. By his light, everything here shines. Now this has multiple meanings. What resides in our body within the Guhya area is Atma, and that Atma is not of physical in nature. Whatever our body is, that can be illuminated with sun, with moon, the stars. But what is within that Guhya? If we think all the cells in our body, in our gross body, they ultimately come from the sun or some star, and they are illuminated by sun's rays or moon's rays or star's rays. But what is within the Guhya area, that is not of our dimension, our physical dimension, that is beyond the dimensions, and that Atma cannot be illuminated with sun, moon, star. Then how can a fire, a small lamp or fire, that can illuminate it? Because that Atma is the ultimate thing that illuminates everything. because even sun or moon or stars, they all have that same Atma, that one Atma. And because of that Atma, they give light to others. So ultimately, who is the giver of that light? Is that one Atma or Paramatma. Now, this is metaphysical interpretation, or this is the interpretation of a yogi. Now, if we look at a scientific interpretation of this, then there are multiple places in our galaxies or in universe throughout. They are called black holes. So those black holes, they cannot be illuminated with the sun, the moon, or any of the stars, because every black hole is said to have a horizon, event horizon, and beyond that what happens nobody knows. There are just theories, there are just speculations. We cannot detect anything. We can detect something, that is gravity or gravitational waves that are coming because of that object. So we can only experience the gravity of black hole, but we cannot illuminate the black hole. Black hole every second consumes multiple stars around it, surrounding it, and still it is black, so no light can escape. Again, that is a simple explanation. What happens inside is a totally complete different science, but we can say that in a sense at physical level black hole might be representing Atma. We don't know. It is Atma of our galaxy, we don't know, but it matches the description. It resides in a guhya area, like a cave, gufa of galaxy, and it cannot be illuminated with any of the stars or any sun, moon, or fire. And whatever energy it has, the gravity it has, ultimately that is the reason for creation of many of the stars. So in a sense it creates lights. So who knows, maybe our understanding will grow in future and we'll know more. Maybe some yogi can understand that and can explain us, because whenever we see read many of the things mentioned in Rigvedas, Bhagavad Gita, or Upanishads, or even in Puranas, we always think, how come a Rishi sitting here on the earth could know that many years back when they did not have these modern instruments? So how could they do that? So once we realize what is within, we can know the whole universe. So I think somebody will give us some answer. So this completes second vallI of second adHyAya. Now third vallI, first verse. ऊर्ध्व मूलो अवाक् शाख एषो अश्वत्थः सनातनः तदेव शुक्रं तद् ब्रह्म तदेवामृतमुच्यते तिस्मन् लोकाः श्रिताः सर्वे तदो नात्येति कश्चन एतद्वै तत्. The eternal Ashwatha tree has roots that go upwards and branches that go downwards. He is resplendent indeed, that Brahman, who is called immortality itself. All worlds are dependent upon him, and no one goes beyond that. This indeed is that. You can see word to word parallel in Bhagavad Gita of this verse, that there is, if we look at Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga, it clearly mentions this, that how this world looks like. So it's like a tree, Ashwatha tree. Ashwa is representation of power, energy. So where the energy resides, that is Ashwatha tree. In our world, Ashwatha is people or sacred fig. So people tree, or that is always called sacred. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, among all the trees, I am Ashwatha. So Ashwatha represents God. And in a physical sense, If we take the word Ashwatha, is where all the energy, all the power resides. Now that tree is upward down. Its roots are up, its branches are downward. Uh, it has multiple meanings. That's what I see. If we look at our body, human body, our mind is the root of all the senses, is the root of all the activities happening in our body. It also nourishes all the cells of the body with multiple activities. That is all controlled via the mind, the brain. So that brain is up and all the branches are downward in all our limbs, throughout all the body parts. So that represents the eternal Ashwatha tree. Yatha pinde tatha brahmande, whatever is within body, that is in the universe. So now if we look at outward, in the outward world, many yogis describe this physical world. It is like a gondola, it's like a basket beneath the spiritual or the subtle world. The subtle world is at the top, and the physical world is like hanging from that. So in a sense, the root is upward, because root nourishes the branches. So that subtle world, that spiritual world nourishes our physical world. So root is upward and branches are downward. In a different sense, let's look at what is happening in the galaxy. So there are black holes throughout the galaxy, but the supermassive black hole that is within the center, that is kind of holding all the arms of the galaxies. Galaxy has 4 arms. Our solar system is Orion arm in the 3rd arm. So 4 arms that are kind of being held by the supermassive black hole in the center. So that center, it's kind of root which nourishes all the branches. If we look now within, very inner side, so our Atma resides in our Guhya, and because of that Atma, the prerna comes to mind, and that is being spread or expanded throughout the body. So that again is a metaphor that Ashwatha tree, the root is within and it's kind of expanding outward. So in a sense, the root is upward and the branches are downward. And Bhagavad Gita goes one step beyond. It says that all the leaves of these branches are Vedas. So every leaf in this tree is Veda. Actually, we'll not go into that. We'll stay to the context. So that is resplendent, the bright one, Shukra, very bright. That is Brahma. So that root is very, very bright. It's kind of powerhouse. It illuminates everything, and that is Brahma. All the worlds are dependent upon him, and no one goes beyond that. So we cannot cross that boundary. The worlds meaning our physical worlds. In the Vedic context or Upanishadic context, there are 3 worlds: Bhur, Bhuvaha, Swaha. Our Prithvi, the atmosphere in the world beyond, the space. So that is all dependent upon Brahma, and they cannot go beyond Brahma. That means we are bound by this physical nature. We are bound by these 4 dimensions, 3 physical and time. So we are bound by these physical dimensions. We cannot go beyond that in a different sense. And this indeed is that. Second verse, Yadidam kim cha jagat sarvam prana ejati nisrutam mahadbhyam vajramudyam ya etadvi duramamrutatste bhavanta. This whole world vibrates because it flows out from the divine life breath. This power is as terrific as a vajra, thunderbolt, lifted up to throw. Those who know this become immortal. So now the whole world vibrates. As long as there is temperature, scientists have proved that microwave background is at least 2 to 3 degree Kelvin temperate. That means it has some kind of vibrations. Vibrations require some particles, and there are particles throughout. Whenever we say it is vacuum, it is not free from any particle, atomic particle or subatomic particle. There has to be some physical element, some particle in the vacuum too. And because there is temperature, there is some vibration, and that vibration is caused throughout the universe by this thunderbolt, this power of Brahma. And how? It's a divine life breath, that prana, because of prana, because prana is being held by Brahma and given to every iota of this universe, and because of that prana everything vibrates. And who knows this becomes immortal. So again, a step to realization, a tool that is given us to realization, that once we understand this vibration, there is a different practice called sahaja marga. In sahaja marga, they are taught to tune. When they meditate on this universal vibration. They want to go lower and lower. See, our gross body, it has a lot of vibrations happening inside our body. So they want to go beyond that. They want to tune their mind, their realization to that universal vibration. So once they become one with that vibration, they know Brahma. They have that realization. So this is one of the paths. Third verse, Bhayadasyagnistapati, Bhayattapati Surya, Bhayadindrascha Vayuscha, Mrityu Dharvati Panchamaha. By this terror, fire burns. By this terror, the sun shines. By this terror, do Indra, Vayu, and the fifth Yama run. So because of power of Brahma, everything is happening around us, including the activities or actions of all the gods, like sun, the Surya, Agni, Indra, Vayu, and Yama. They all do their activities with the power of Brahma, which we know as adHyaya Shakti. So that is Shakti of Brahma, and it is terror. Again, that is metaphor. Bhay bina priti na hoy is what is said, but it is not that bhaya. This bhaya meaning, because the power is such enormous, very terrific, that nobody can escape. They have to do their work. If we look at an example of sun's core, it has I think, if I am not mistaken, millions of degrees of temperature in the sun's core. So imagine that temperature. So because of that enormous power, that energy, sun has to emit light and hold this world. Sun cannot escape that. It's such enormous power. Agni, when we ignite something, when that ignition happens, when the flame comes into existence, we cannot touch it. Even a simple flame, we cannot touch it. It has that much enormous energy, and because of that energy, it has to give light and ushma, warmth. So likewise, all the gods or all the forces in the nature, they act because of that power of God, power of Brahma, Paramatma. Fourth verse, इह चेदशकद बोध प्राक् शरीरस्य विस्रसः ततः सर्गेषु लोकेषु शरीरत्वाय कल्पते. If one is unable to know him here before the death of the body, then one assumes bodies again and again in the world of creation. Again, this is a repetition. If we don't have that realization in this life, then we are bound to come back, because we eventually, our goal is to know that eternal truth, that Parabrahma, Paramatma. We have to be one with that. However births we take, ultimately we are going to get that. So it's up to us whether we want to be in that cycle or we want to leave it right away very quickly. It's up to us, it's our choice. So that is the choice given to us. Fifth verse, यथा आदर्शे तथा आत्मनि यथा स्वप्ने तथा पितृलोके यथा अप्सु परिवददृशे तथा गंधर्वलोके छाया तप योरिव ब्रह्मलोके. Self is like mirror that shows clear, meaning Brahman. It appears unreal like dream in Pitruloka. It is shaky water like in Gandharvaloka. The world appears unreal like a dream, the world of forefathers. It appears shaky like image in water, the world of Gandharva, higher beings. It appears as distinct from the self, as light from shade, the world of Brahma. So these are different characteristics of various lokas. In our world, we do not experience Brahma. Nobody experiences Atma unless one goes beyond the clutches of mind and Maya. So in our world, we do not feel there is Atma or Brahma. Similarly, in world of Pitrus, our forefathers, ancestors, it is like a dream. Now again, why this metaphor? Pitruloka is where memory resides. When we leave our body, we say that we take next birth, and in the next birth we carry some memory of past birth, and because of that memory we do certain actions in our new birth. So where does that memory reside? Where does that memory live? Because our physical body, either cremated or buried, it's no longer is the same body in the next birth, and we say that memory is stored in mind, in brain, right? But how does this memory across all the births are saved? So here there is a hint that Pitruloka meaning when we leave this body, we are in this subtle world. In this subtle world, whatever happens, we don't know the process yet, or there is no scientific explanation. But in this world of memory, Brahma appears as dream, because our dreams are created by memory. Because ultimately when we sleep, our subconscious mind, it is not subconscious mind, it is the mind itself, it has some activities happening, it processes memory gathered throughout the day or in previous days. So while processing this memory, it creates dream. So that is Swapnavastha. So that's why in Pitruloka, which is the storage of memory across births, Brahma appears as dream, like Swapna. And there is one more word, Gandharvaloka. Now, who is Gandharva? They are considered celestial musicians. Gandharva, they play divine music, they sing divine songs, and many have experienced those Gandharvas in Himalayas. So who are these Gandharvas? They sing divine songs, they sing or they play divine instruments. So it's like natural force that creates this feeling of joy in all of us. Basically they are desires. They are the world of desires. So in desire, that world, how Brahma appears? Like water with vibrations, like shaky water. Because every desire, see, we have memory. Now memory creates some expectation. It creates some desire for Atma with Maya to do something. And that action creates vibrations for the next life. So it's like when we throw a stone in water, a still water, throw a stone. So our desire is like that. Desire, when it is thrown in the Atma or the Maya avaran of Atma, it creates these vibrations. So Brahma appears like that in the Gandharva Loka, or the world of celestial musicians. Even one name of sun, Surya, is Savitri, Savitru. So Savitru is the one that illuminates three worlds. And Gayatri, something that sings in these three worlds. So what is that? So ultimately, whatever happens at cellular level or whatever happens at subtle level, we kind of don't understand, but we feel the action of that. Say we live in the world where there is no light, sunlight for multiple days. Then we go out when sun shines. Whatever happens in our body, whatever happens in our mind, that is that joy. Even if we experience it willfully or not, we all feel joyful when we go out of the clouds in the sunshine. If we keep living in sunshine, we do not realize that. But when there is clouds for say 10 days, and then when sun shines, that feeling is different. So where that feeling comes from, that is Savitri or Gayatri. The sun rays that fall on our body or mind, they kind of sing, they kind of illuminate within us. So that is Gayatri or Savitri. And if we understand that, that will take us to self-realization, that how it happens. So it is one more tool to do that. And that's why many sadhakas, many yogis, they follow sun, because for them the key to realization is sun. Ultimately the sun, via that medium, they have self-realization. So these are multiple techniques. And in Brahmaloka, that is the eternal abode, the eternal state. How does it appear? Self is light and everything else is shade or chaya. So Brahma is light and everything else is kind of reflected or it's in the shadow of that. So that is the feeling or that is the experience in Brahmaloka. Meaning after self-realization, this is how we feel, is what Rishi is saying. Sixth verse. Indriyanam पृथक भाव मुदयास्तमयौ च यत् पृथगुत्पद्यमाना नाम मत्वा धीरो न शोचति. The senses and their rising and setting are different, and the divine is different. Knowing this, the wise one grieves no more. So when we feel joy, when we feel sorrow, these are all actions of mind and the senses. If we look at good picture, good movie, eyes feel good, ultimately mind feels good. If we see bad scene, eyes is not happy, that sense is not happy, mind is not happy. Every organ, every sense is like that. So what is beyond that? The divine. So once we know that, that is also one more key to know the realization. And the wise grieves no more. So if we understand this, why should we become sad? Whatever happens in our life around us is temporary. That we all agree, right? We all agree that everything is temporary, whether it is happiness or sadness. So why should we be unhappy? What is the reason to be unhappy? So if we know that, the thing is, inner peace is achieved. Seventh verse. इंद्रियेभ्यः परं मनो मनसः सत्वमुत्तमं सत्वादधि महानात्मा महतो अव्यक्तमुत्तमम्. The mind is higher than the senses. The intellect is higher than the mind. The great self is higher than the intellect. The unmanifest is higher than the self. Now these are the different categories of mind and ultimately to Atma. So mind is higher than senses. All the sense organs that are controlled by mind, ultimately everything goes back to mind, and mind does its magic. So that is collection of memory, and collection of memory is how mind operates, and very easy to control that. Do pratyahara out of Ashtanga Yoga. If we do pratyahara, it can easily be controlled. So the example we can take is, see, there is something happening in that room, even bigger voice than what I am speaking, but do we know what is happening there? We don't know. We do not pay attention to what is happening there, because at least myself, I am speaking, so my mind is focusing on what I say, so I don't hear anything what is happening there. Likewise, we can easily control of all the senses and mind. And so pratyahara is take all the senses that are outward, bring them inward. And very easy tool to do that is when we take breath in from the left side, that light passes through the left leg up to the left toe. When breathe out, bring that light upward into the spine. Do the same thing. Breathe in, light to the right leg, foot, right toe. Breathe out and take the light back into the spine. Then breathe in, left arm up to the fingers. That light goes back with breathing out to the spine. Right arm, breathe in, breathe out, and torso, breathe in, light, breathe out, light back in the spine. Very simple pratyahara, and that it can easily control any of the senses and mind, because mind is the storage of memory. Then comes something higher, intellect. Intellect is buddhi. So buddhi, using memory, buddhi has deciphering capability. This is again a different state of mind. So deciphering knowledge, dissecting knowledge is buddhi, and we all have buddhi. We are not buddhu, right? Nobody can claim that. We have, that power more or less. The degree varies, just like memory. No individual is same. So buddhi, somebody has different type of buddhi. I'm not saying less, more or less. It's different type of buddhi. So that intellectual power that is higher than memory, and that can easily be controlled with dharana. So dharana is guess. If we assume that there is some inner light in our guhya area, very simple dharana, and focus on that. So with that dharana, intellect can be controlled. Higher than the intellect is self. Now Ashtanga Yoga differs little bit here. So next step in Ashtanga Yoga is bhava or chitta. Chitta has bhava, and that bhava can be controlled with dhyana. When we focus, when we have that dharana, we keep doing dharana for multiple time over a multitude of period. That becomes dhyan, and that can control our bhava or chitta. And higher than that is self, atma, and that is samadhi. So once we become one with Paramatma, that is samadhi. We are one with that. But there is something higher than the Atma, which is avyakta. Avyakta is Paramatma. In a sense, actually we'll see further what they talk about. But there are multiple levels of avyakta, of Paramatma. I think we can stop here. We are close to the top of the hour. So, mind is greater than senses, intellect is greater than mind, self is greater than intellect, unmanifest is greater than self. So, now we'll go into a different territory. So, avyakta is higher dimension that we cannot experience easily. Only through pratyahara, dharana, dhyan, we go to the state of samadhi. Then only we can know avyakta. That is our first interaction of avyakta. But we cannot stop there, because that is just temporary state. That is still not eternal state, and we'll explore that further. So we can stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi.